Okay, so we're going to install, configure, and run through an example project with VS Code. First of all, make sure you have Homebrew installed. You can do this with the macOS setup guide, then install VS Code by running this command in terminal. Alternatively, you can install directly from the VS Code website. I'm just going to use the command because I'm just going to go ahead and use it. This step seems to take a minute. Just let it be. Okay, now that VS Code is installed, I'm going to go ahead on to step 2, configure VS Code. Okay, this setup works on both macOS and Linux-based systems. That means WSL for Windows machines, but it doesn't work in a pure Windows environment. We're on macOS, so we're fine. We require curl and clang-d. If you followed one of the guides and have reached this point, you should already have them. Otherwise, look up how to install them. And we're going to set up a VS Code profile. So VS Code allows the creation of profiles that allow the editor to be easily switched between configurations. This applies to extensions, tasks, settings, etc., and you can find more information at this link. What this means is that whatever setups may have already been built can be quickly replaced or returned to without installing or uninstalling extensions, or changing any individual settings. If no profiles have been explicitly created, VS Code puts everything into a profile called default. After the steps below, a profile named EX281 will be created. Other profiles can be created to suit common editor workflows like working in Python, website authoring, or data manipulation. So to create an EX281 profile, first you have to open VS Code. I'm just going to do that with the simple way through Launchpad. Okay, then I'm going to move this over so we can see VS Code a little better. Hit open on this. All right, and once you have VS Code open, you can do any of these keybinds to open the command palette. I'm going to do F1. Then type in Preferences, open Profiles UI. Now, here's a quick note. If you already have a profile named EX281, you have to rename it before continuing. Most of you probably won't have a profile like this, but if you're a returning student or you've already messed around with profiles and just happen to create a profile with that name, you're going to have to rename it. Anyways, moving on. Click the V next to New Profile. It's really a drop-down. Import Profile. Then we're going to go ahead and copy one of these URLs. We're on macOS, so we're going to go for this one. Paste it here. Then hit Enter. Then we're going to click Create, wait for the profile to be created. It's going to install extensions like we talked about in the About Profiles section. Then click the check mark next to EX281. If you're prompted to reload, do so. Haven't been prompted for that. If you're prompted to download a pre-release version, refuse. Again, haven't gotten that, so we're fine. Once the newly imported profile is active, and we can see that right here, open the command palette and run tasks, run task. So we're going to do that. Tasks, run task. Okay. Run EX281 setup and press enter. Sure. Then continue without scanning the task output. Let's do that. And it looks like we have the right output here. If we have an existing Clang format or Clang deconfiguration, you'd like to clear them. So you can use ours. You can run the clear configurations task, which will back up the files under a different name in the directory they're currently in and remove the originals. We don't have that. This is a fresh system, so we don't have any configurations. If any other problems occur, you can follow the directions that are displayed and run EX281 setup until setup complete is shown. It can be run as many times as necessary, and any runs after it's successful will have no additional effect. So there's 2 ways to switch profiles. You can use the profiles open profile thing, so sort of how we opened this menu originally. Let's see, profiles, open profile, and then it'll have like EX281 profile. Or you can click the manage icon here, profile, and then pick one of these. Profiles can have custom icons. They can be renamed, deleted, imported, exported, etc. Here, if you're wondering why macOS and Linux have different configuration profiles, it's completely out of scope for this class. You don't have to worry about it, but that's what that is. All right, now that we're done configuring, let's go on to the example tutorial project. So we'll go back here, then intro to VSCode. So I'll quickly go through each of these icons. This top one is a file explorer interface. It displays a tree-like view of the workspace directory. All instances of VS Code will begin with the File Explorer interface selected by default. Your workspace directory is the directory from which you launch VS Code. Then there's the search menu. It allows to search each file within the workspace directory for a particular string. There are search options to use regular expressions, match whole words, match case, and find and replace. This search is very fast. Source control allows you to perform version control without using the command line. For each project in this class, you should at least have a local Git repository on your computer. Ideally, each project should also have a private repository on GitHub. If there's an existing Git repository within your workspace, VS Code will automatically track changes for you. Next is the debugging menu. Here you can run a visual debugger, complete with step over, step into, and live variable viewing functionality. We'll cover the visual debugger in greater depth later. Then, we don't have this remote explorer icon, so I'm going to go ahead and skip that. Lastly, the extensions menu brings you to the extensions marketplace, where you can search for and download user-created packages to add additional features to VS Code. A big advantage of VS Code is its customizability. Now we're going to go through the tutorial. So in this tutorial, you will complete a quick EX281 style program. Please note that this tutorial is not the same as the Project Zero available on Canvas. This tutorial, while essential, will not be submitted to the AutoGrader. After completing this tutorial, you should then complete the Project Zero available on Canvas. First, we're going to open Terminal. Then we're going to get our username by running id-un. So my username is Ethan. Then we're going to make a workspace directory for this tutorial using the makedir command. So here we give an example, and we say here like the capital user is the username you just found. So I'm going to run this command, makedir-p, users, Ethan, EX281, and p0-tutorial. Okay, looks like it worked. Then we're going to enter the directory with cd. So cd, users, Ethan, EX281, p0-tutorial. Then we're going to download the tutorial tarball with this long command. I'm not going to type all this out, so I'm just going to hit copy. And then paste, hit enter, looks like it downloaded just fine. And the tarball should now be in the workspace directory. We can unpack it by using this command. I will just type this one, tar xvf vs. And then since I know there's only one file that starts with vs, I can just hit tab and it'll auto-complete it for me. Hit enter and it'll extract all the files. We can delete the leftover tarball. I'm just going to leave it. And then we're going to need to open the workspace directory within VS Code. There's two ways to complete this task. So option one is to launch VS Code from within the workspace directory. So since our current directory is p0-tutorial here, we could type code dot, hit enter, and it would open VS Code. But since we already have VS Code open, I'm just going to go ahead and use option two. So we're going to hit file, open folder, and then it's going to start in our home folder here, Ethan. Yours will be whatever your username was. Then click EX281, p0-tutorial, and hit open. And here you can even see that all the files are here. Okay, you trust us, I hope. So we're going to hit yes. Then you can see, again, all the files unpacked from the tarball are appearing in the File Explorer interface. Next, we're going to click on tutorial.cpp, and it'll open it in the editing window. For future reference, clicking once on a file will open that file in this editing window. It'll automatically close when another file is opened. Double-clicking on the file will open it in a permanent editor window. The editing window will remain open until manually closed by the user. Within the editing window, you can make changes to the contents of the open file. However, VS Code's unable to display the contents of certain types of files. Now that you have the example project downloaded, we're going to go ahead and follow the project guided usage tutorial to learn how to use VS Code for a real program, including how to use a visual debugger.